the too big to fail banks believe, this is me just speaking, believe that many of us on the enforcement side are as scared or more scared than they are of peeling back this onion.
Delaware Attorney General Beau Biden, a colleague of yours, I think it's fair to say, and he was a guest on our show. That's him speaking to my colleague Dylan Ratigan. The big question, we've gone into the weeds a little bit, and I thank you for tolerating that. The big question is, why haven't we seen any accountability? I mean, I think this is the head-scratching question in some ways that defines our era. You look around and you see, this is not a nation that has a problem with putting people in jail. Heck, we put more people in jail than any other country in the OECD. This is not a nation that doesn't have a lot of smart prosecutors. We've got tons of smart prosecutors. How is it the case that 3 years later, essentially no one at the top has been held to account?
There are a lot of investigations that have been underway. There are a lot of resources that have been brought to bear. But there has been attention. There are folks in state government, there are folks in local law enforcement, there are folks in the federal government who are hungry to go after the misconduct that caused the crash. And there are a lot of pieces in place already. So we're not writing on a blank slate. There are a lot of private litigants that have developed information that we're going to be able to use in the joint investigation. I think that the clarity the president provided this past week really was that we are going to step up on the principle of one set of rules for everyone, equal justice under law. You can't have some institutions that are protected by the law, not allowed to fail, and not held to account, and all the other institutions and companies in America are allowed to fail. You can't have equal justice under law and have too big to fail, and that's really where we were stepping up this week.
And the trouble is we literally have unequal justice, and we literally have a whole group of people that were allowed to fail and literally fall flat on their faces. So this is my question. There have been so many investigations, and you're saying you have this remit and this staff and the clarity from the president. 2 words, jail time. Like, will there be corporate criminal responsibility? Are people going to be behind bars? Because there's a real sense that might this just be more of that wonderful State of the Union that's a fighting president on the side of the 99%, but actually, substantively, it's been about protecting the 1%.
Well, I think, first of all, we're in an ongoing investigation, and I can't get into the details. Certainly, the folks who have the criminal jurisdiction are a part of our working group. We all have the ability. The New York securities law, the Martin Act, is more flexible in some ways than the federal securities law. So, again, the combination of resources should tell you that we are looking at possible criminal liability, civil liability, and an array of things that I've already mentioned. But I think the important thing to understand is this is not just about the president. This is about the American people having risen up over the course of the last year. The political atmosphere right now is so different than it was when I started this conflict over giving the banks a release a year ago. And that's not because of me, and that's not because of Congressman Cohen. That's because of the grassroots uprising that's taken place across this country. Equal justice under law is the essential differentiating factor between the United States and all of the aristocracies and monarchies that were around when this country was formed. I realize you have some congressional colleagues who think we should go back to Europe. We're not taking equal justice under law back anywhere. That's American. That is quintessentially American, and that's really what we're stepping up on. So everything is on the table. The investigation, we started the joint working group on Friday, so I can't comment on actual results yet. But in the next few weeks, I think you will see indications that this is an active investigation going forward. You will see more subpoenas. 11 were announced on Friday. You will see action by other agencies. You will see cases being filed.
Is there a timeline to it?
No, there's no timeline, but I assure you if we don't have some concrete results within the next 6-8 months, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Congressman.
Esther asks, and I understand it from the public's perspective, you want to see people in jail. And Bob Dylan had a great line: you steal a little and they put you in jail, you steal a lot and they make you the king.
Right.
Well, I don't necessarily want to see anybody in jail. I want to see deferred prosecution agreements to where these corporate criminals have to do some restitution and some remedies to the homeowners, which I think is what you want to see, and to see them reduce principal and work as we've tried to do to get them to mediate. And that's what you get. Putting them in jail, that's great. You see a picture and there's stripes and they're picking up litter or something. But making sure that the people who are underwater get to, a little
But what about both? Why can't it be both as opposed to one or the other? There should be restitution, absolutely, because of the billions of people have lost, but shouldn't they also pay for their criminality?
Well,
that's also part of the American way, isn't it?
They should, and I have no problem. Don't let me be the defender of the crooks. But the big thing is getting the homeowners relief, and that's what you get in the DPAs.
It's key to our economic recovery. A couple weeks ago, a report came out by the Fed, who usually doesn't get involved in dictating policy or suggestions, and they said, if we want to get out of this economic well we're in, we need to fix the housing crisis. We need to get people back into their homes. We need to figure out a way to pump that money back in. And so we're working at it from all sides. And I think while we want to see the criminals put away, let's not forget about the people who are being foreclosed on.
I want to say something, though, about this question of jail, and because I think this is important. There's two things that are happening, I think, that sort of produce the securitization machine that produces the crisis. One of them is deregulation and expanding the realm of things that are legal, right? And the Fed was asleep at the switch. I mean, people were going and meeting with the Fed saying lending standards are degrading. There's all these things you need to do. You can enforce tougher standards. They didn't do it. So there was an expansion of what was legal, but there was also, and I'm not a prosecutor, but from what the research I've done, it seems a lot of illegal activity. I mean, people were doing things they knew were fraudulent. They were passing paper they knew was no good. And I think in terms of this notion of what will prevent the next crash, I think seeing someone go to jail who is one of your colleagues has a more profound deterrent effect on the future of our financial system in many respects than passing something like Dodd-Frank in certain ways, because it's personal and it's human, and people that are at the wheel need to know that they're going to be held responsible. New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, new co-chair, the task force on mortgage fraud. Thank you for taking so much time this morning. I really, really appreciate it.
Real pleasure. Thank you.